have my cue. So we'll start this. This is a public workshop on the 2015 budget. I'm Ron LeBlanc, City Manager for Durango, and we have a PowerPoint that'll explain how the budget is constructed, what different types of elements go into the budget. We'll review some numbers in terms of sales tax and revenue expenditure trends, and then we'll explain how the public can access the city in terms of giving us their ideas and input. So the purpose of this presentation is not required by any charter provision or statutory provision. It's an additional element that we've been doing for many years to give the public additional input. And we do it at this time of the year because the department heads are putting together their budgets. And if you can give the department head an idea right now, it's a lot easier for them to incorporate before they finalize their budget and submit it to the city manager. Once the city manager gives the budget to the council, it's harder, it's more difficult to make changes because we've gone through an extraordinary effort to balance the budget. So basically the budget process starts off with the city council goals, and the city council sets goals every 2 years. We do that after the city council elections in April. So in the spring of 2015, we will have another workshop with the city council and either create new goals or adjust the ones that we have. Then we do the public workshop, like tonight, that solicits input from the public. And the city staff has already started to do their budget presentations and preparing their budgets. We start that in July. And this is, today's date is the, what's today? The 29th of July. So they've been working on it for a couple of weeks. Those budgets come to me, and under the charter, I'm supposed to present a recommended budget to the city council, and we're expected to do that on the 23rd of September. So this starts with the city council goals, and the city council goals are basically 4 major topics. And I'm going to take a minute to review those because this screen is hard to read, and we have members here from the public. The first goal, goal number 1, promote community sustainability through fiscal, organizational, and environmental resiliency. So each goal is organized with objectives, and there are 3 objectives for every goal. And then for every objective, there are action steps and action items that are translated into budget items that the department heads present to the council. But in goal number 1, I think everyone understands sustainability from an environmental perspective, but it's also important to understand sustainability from an economic perspective. And I'm going to get into that in more detail a little bit later. Goal number 2, foster civic engagement and democracy by encouraging citizen and youth participation, open and transparent government, and regional leadership. The city of Durango is the largest city in southwest Colorado. We are also the regional hub for a lot of activities, economic activities, financial activities, entertainment, educational, and so forth. And that puts a responsibility on the city that does not exist on other local governments in the region. So within the city limits, we're trying to promote civic education and encourage citizen, city, employee, and youth participation. The Mayor's Youth Advisory Council is a outgrowth of that, and we've had a lot of success involving youth. And we're trying to do a better job engaging the public. And over the next few weeks and months, you'll see a greater effort by city staff to engage the public. Foster community trust by demonstrating open and transparent government. We are now in the middle of developing a ethics policy and code of conduct for city officials. That is in process, and we've had some good input. Yesterday, the 28th of July, we had 2 workshops, and we're hoping on the 12th of August to hold a study session with the City Council. And the third objective here is strive to be a leader both regionally and statewide. We do take our responsibilities very seriously, and we try to be the convener of many regional and statewide events. Last Friday, the Downtown Colorado Inc. Had its annual meeting in Durango. At the end of August, the Colorado Association of Ski Towns will have their a meeting in Durango as well. But we frequently host those types of meetings. So goal number 3, demonstrate government performance through efficient, effective, and innovative city operations. And the 3 objectives for that goal are provide city services with efficiency and effectiveness. So we're always looking for feedback from the community as to how we can be more efficient and effective. And again, the council goals really tell us what it is the council wants to accomplish, what direction the council wants to take the city. It's up to the city manager and the staff to determine how best to achieve those goals. We are trained in our various professional capacities to do operations in an efficient and effective manner. Maintain city infrastructure. The City Council last year added millions, I think $2 million into the street budget to try to play catch up on years that we weren't able to maintain our road infrastructure. And you'll be seeing more later in the budget process on water and sewer infrastructure needs. We're in the middle of doing a water and sewer rate study that'll come to the council in September, and that'll address the infrastructure needs for water and sewer. Improve city facilities to meet needs of a growing community. That's always a challenge. We have some buildings we're very proud of. The Durango Public Library is LEED Gold certified. Our Transit Center, LEED Gold certified. We have other buildings that are not so good, like City Hall. Goal number 4, envision Durango's sense of place by creating character districts, promoting responsible land use planning, and maintaining the community's sense of identity. These are elements that the council recognized in adopting this goal that make Durango a unique place and a desirable place for people to retire, come to live, move to, start a business, go to school here, and so forth. So these character districts, we just approved a land use and development code, and you'll see by reading through that document or looking at it that there are neighborhoods and areas of the city with unique character that we want to encourage. For example, we have a river that in the history of Durango has been neglected. In the recent history, we've tried to open up the river with a trail and some green space, and that was the genesis of the 1999 half cent. Objective 4.2, promote responsible land use planning. I just mentioned the Land Use and Development Code. That's an incredible document. You can go online. It's an iterative document, so as changes are made by this council and future councils, those changes are noted, dated, and documented. Maintain Durango's sense of identity. I think the best way to describe that would be a year ago in February, then Mayor Doug Lyon was attending a workshop in Denver. The keynote was Governor Hickenlooper, and he had no idea that Mayor Lyon was in the audience, and part of his speech, he said if he could bottle Durango and give it to other cities, he would do that. So I take that as a compliment that we're doing a lot of things very well. So the budget is basically in 2 parts. The money coming in and the money going out. So it's revenues and expenditures. And we organize the budget by fund, and within a fund there's a department, within a department there's a division, and then each division has program detail, which includes personnel services, materials and supplies, charges and services, And then each one of those things are object codes or line items. So we have a budget that is both program-oriented, it's also reflective of the city organizational chart, and it's also a line item budget. So it meets various needs. So let's talk about what these items consist of. So the first thing I'd like to emphasize is the different types of funds. An enterprise fund is a proprietary function that the city operates like a business. And we have 5: water, sewer, airport, sustainable services, and transportation services. And I think everyone knows water and sewer. We run that like a business. So when you pay your water bill, you're paying the amount of money we need to run that business. Same thing with your sewer bill. The airport is frequently misunderstood. It is a department of the city. The physical asset is owned by the county and by the city. It's owned 50% county, 50% city, but it's 100% managed by the city. So it functions as a city department. Most of the funds that go to the airport are in the form of grants from the federal government and state government. So if you happen to be reading about Congress and their lack of consensus on passing a transportation bill, the transportation bill funds the airport. That's the biggest source of revenue for the Durango airport. The state also contributes to the airport, and right now there are no local funds, either city or county, going to operate the airport. And the airport does generate some money on its own from parking fees and leases for the concessions, rent-a-cars, and the airlines themselves. Sustainable services is our recycling and solid waste collection. We operate the recycle center as well. The city is fortunate in that we do everything in terms of sustainable services. We pick up residential, solid waste, and we also pick up recyclables, which is we call single stream. Very successful program. We also do commercial, and we compete with other private haulers for commercial business. So we have to be that good to compete against Waste Management, for example, which is an international company, and we do very well in terms of the level of service we provide. Transportation services is basically parking and transit, and the parking revenue goes to support and underwrite a free trolley, and to provide other services that are in that department. Transit is also dependent on federal and state revenues. So again, the Congress really does have an impact on what we do. Special revenue funds have revenues that can be only used for the purpose that the voters voted to give us. It's kind of an awkward sentence, but we have 2 half-cent sales tax measures approved by the voters. One was the 1999 half-cent, which is coming up for reauthorization, and that goes to pay the debt service for the rec center, and it pays for the operating deficit of the rec center. On a good year, we can collect or generate about 90 to 94% of the revenue at the rec center through fees and charges. So the difference has to come out of that half-cent. The 99 half-cent also pays for the Animas River Trail and for acquisition of Greenway. We also have a 2005 half-cent that is for parks, trails, and open space, and it also pays the debt service on the Durango Public Library and the debt service on Florida Road. There's a tourism fund that is the lodger's tax. So if someone comes and stays in a property in the city limits of Durango, they pay a 2% lodger's tax. That funds the tourism fund. And by ordinance, the council has a little flexibility on what that revenue can be used for. It subsidizes some of the transit operations because we want to encourage our visitors to use the free trolley and the transit buses. It also is used for the downtown. We put some money in to invest in the downtown to make us a better destination. But the majority of the lodger's tax goes to DATO, which is the Durango Area Tourism Office, and that is our marketing arm. And they use that money to market the community and bring people to town. There are 2 internal service funds, and these are basically accounting devices. For example, we have a vehicle replacement fund. The title for that is SURF. It's the City Equipment Replacement Fund, and we act as our own rental agency. So if any of you have gone to Ted's Rentals or Target Rentals and rented a piece of equipment, that's what this fund does. It owns the fleet, and so the police department rents the vehicles from this fund, and at the end of the life of that vehicle, there's money set aside to replace the vehicle. It's a very well-managed fund. It allows us to buy equipment when it's needed, but it's a steady amount that we budget for, and it's a better management tool than just having to react to something after it breaks down. We also have a risk management fund, which includes our emphasis on safety in the workplace and our insurance program. We have a very robust insurance program. We belong to a statewide pool, and that allows us to have very good coverage for all of our assets, and also it lets us tap into a risk management program that is statewide. The council has some very difficult decisions in balancing all these operations, but none are as difficult as the general fund. So everything in the general fund that the council deals with relates to something that's discretionary, if you will. Police department, finance department, city clerk's office, there are very few mandates for what we do, but those are the areas that the public most likely has comments on. So that's a summary of what the types of funds. And this chart just depicts how we account for it. We have to account for the money coming in and the expenditures going out. We know every line item, every dollar that's ever spent in the city. And we go back years, I think online for any particular budget. We have 4 years of history when you look at our budget format. So it allows you to see trends. And we've been awarded several national awards on how we organize things. So, for example, if you pick out an enterprise fund, like the water fund, those little circles in that, looks like a martini glass, but that's just me. Those are the types of revenues that go in to the water fund. And then Transportation Services Fund, Sustainable Services Fund. So transportation services, for example, you have the parking meter revenue, you have fines, when you put money on your smart card, all of that is coming in, and also grants that we get from the state. So if we look at all the revenues and put them into one basket, it would look like this. The general fund is the biggest fund, 56% of our total. Enterprise funds, 28% of the total. So to look at those relationships, about 28% of what we do is running businesses. 56% of what we do is the more discretionary governance operations. And then the other two would be special revenue funds and internal service funds. Special revenue funds don't have flexibility. We only spend it on what the voters have allowed us to spend it on. And the internal service funds allow us to do things more efficiently. So when you break down the general fund, the largest fund, most of that money comes from the sales tax. Actually, taxes in general are the biggest component. And I would note that property tax is the same mill rate since 1983. We have not changed the mill rate since 1983. That was 1 year after Bob Ledger arrived in Durango. And if Bob's watching, I want to thank him for that. It also is about 2.2 million total, somewhere around 2.2 million. So when people ask, well, why don't you just raise the property tax? If we doubled it, it would only give us another 2.2 million. And think about the uproar if someone were to say, why are you doubling my taxes? It would be significant. One of the things we're proud of is how we've managed our sales tax over the years. And the Great Recession hit us at the end of 2008, and it took us 4 years to recover. But in that time, the City Council made some very, very difficult decisions. The first decision they made was to take the city organization, downsize it, and make it sustainable. We eliminated 37 positions, and we were able to maintain essential services, and we just weathered the storm. But we knew once the economy were to recover, we would be in a better position than ever to manage that new growth. And this chart depicts how that has happened. In 2013, we exceeded the revenue or sales tax generated in 2008, which was the highest amount of sales tax ever collected in the history of Durango. And we did that by a combination of more efficient measures, cutting back on some not efficient measures, and we invested in our people. Our employees that remained with the city were asked to do more, and as a result we gave them more training, and now we are very efficient in what we do. So we're projecting a small increase for 2014, and we'll probably project an increase in 2015, although we haven't determined that yet. I think the projected increase in 14 was 6% over 13, and right now we're about 5.8%, so we're right on target. So if you look month by month, Durango is a dual peak economy. We have a winter season and a summer season. If we had a chart like this for Breckenridge or Telluride, it would be predominantly a winter season and not much in the summer. So the lighter color is 2014 and the darker color is 2013, and you can see the first 6 months we have exceeded 2013 every month. And we're expecting that to continue through the rest of the year. So this gets a little confusing, so I'm going to go through it and go through slowly so that the public can understand what happens. If you had $100 and you spend it in the city limits, where does that tax go? So first of all, you're going to pay $7.90. $2.90 goes to the state of Colorado. $5 stays local. And of that $5, $3 comes to the city of Durango directly. And the $3 includes $2 that goes right to the general fund, 50 cents that goes to the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Fund, the 2005 money, and 50 cents that goes to the Animas River Trail Rec Center and Rec Center Debt Service, which is the 1999 half cent. That part is kind of easy to follow. The next part, not so much. There's a 22-cent joint city-county sales tax. So 22 cents comes back to this joint city-county fund managed by the county. And then there's a county-wide shared sales tax, so $1.78 would go to that. And how that breaks out, so again, this is a purchase within the city limits of Durango. For the countywide shared tax, Bayfield gets 8 cents, Ignacio 7, Durango 36 cents, and La Plata County $1.27. A tax is basically the base times the rate equals the amount that you receive. The tax base for Durango is 77% of the total retail within the county occurs within the city limits of Durango. So if you were looking at a sales tax dollar, you can thank the city for being the base of 77%. The joint city-county fund actually only funds 2 things, and it's the public library and the senior center. It used to fund more, but with everything else, that fund has not kept pace with inflation, and the library has had a tremendous run with the new building, and it has a lot of patrons that are depending on their services, as does the senior center. So then we're down to the $3 that comes to the city of Durango, and that's what comes to the general fund and Parks and Open Space, Trails and Rec Center. So if we break down the county shared sales tax, La Plata County gets the lion's share of that. The joint city-county is 11%, Durango gets 18%, Bayfield 4%, Ignacio 3.5%. So if you live in Ignacio, the money that goes into the Ignacio General Fund from sales originating in the city of Durango is almost twice what Ignacio generates within their city limits. I heard someone from Ignacio a couple years ago say that they don't like to come to Durango and they'd rather go to Farmington. That only penalizes the city of Ignacio. And that person is no longer on the city council, I would say. And then in Bayfield, it is twice as much. And Bayfield is trying to generate more of their own sales tax, and that'll happen over time. But right now, twice the amount in Bayfield's general fund comes from a purchase within Durango than it does from a purchase within Bayfield. So tonight is the beginning of a process, and there's quite a bit of analysis and hard work that goes into presenting a budget. And the next time that I will formally address the public will be on September 23rd, and I'll be presenting the City Council with my recommended budget, and that's a charter requirement. Then the City Council has a series of meetings and workshops. They literally go through every account, every line item, every budget, and they scrutinize things, and they ask us to change things. They ask us to redirect some of the money. And November 4 is the next formal public hearing for the 2015 budget. And December 2nd is when the council adopts the budget. And that date is factored because we have to tell the county what our mill rate is by a certain deadline. I think it's about the 10th of December. So that's our only, unless we do a special meeting, that's our only opportunity to do that. So to date, we've been trying to solicit the input from the public. And tonight we have a record crowd, 6 people, 6 citizens, I should say. There's some staff here. And we've received some feedback to date. I get some anecdotal comments every now and then. I'm sure the council does, and they pass them on to me. But this is a word on the street that came up last week in the Telegraph. We have a lot of educating to do. It is not common knowledge as to what we do as a city. We tend to be painted with a broad brush. There's one person here that says they like to have good food at public schools. I would love that, but it's not in our scope of services. So another guy here wants to invest more money in recreational marijuana. When I look at my retirement account, I think that's probably a good advice. But you can see we have a lot of educating to do because the public doesn't understand. And when the public doesn't understand, they tend to be skeptical. So I commend all of you for being here tonight. The next slide shows what you can do. I guess I'm addressing this more to the TV audience. You can send comments to the city manager's website. You can attend the public hearing. You can provide comments to us. They're more meaningful if you do that before August the 8th, because at that point, I am then trying to balance the budget with the department heads, and the budget tends to be less flexible after that date. You have a better chance of seeing your input incorporated if you do it before then.